unexpected, just someone in your life that, man, they so gave to me throughout my life, or maybe even a season in my life. As I have a few, thankfully, and the couple that I thought of when I was preparing for this message was my mom and dad. They have, man, they're not perfect, and they'll be the first ones to tell you that, but man, they've just given me so much. I mean, my mom, she makes you feel loved to your core. If you're around her, she'll make you feel safe. She is such an encourager. She'll speak into your life, and she's done that with me so many times in my life. My dad, he is someone that's just always been there for me. And that brings a real safety and comfort that if I'm ever in trouble, I can always call my dad, and he's gonna be there. It's just awesome. And I don't know who it is in your life, but thinking about that person, and the reason I brought that up is because Christmas is full of reminders of just so much of what God has done for us. His grace, His mercy, His unconditional love, His forgiveness, the benefits that we receive, like joy and peace. There's so many things about the Christmas story that reminds us of all that God has done for us. But I want to go back to my parents for a moment. My relationship with my parents started out pretty one-sided, didn't it? I couldn't do much when I was 3 months old, I wasn't going to the bathroom, flushing the toilet by 1, I wasn't paying the mortgage by 9, it was a very one-sided relationship. And so if I'm not careful, the temptation can be, as a grown man, to still have it be a very one-sided relationship, right? And I don't think any parent out there, when they have a 6-month-old, is thinking to themselves, man, would this child just, keep up on their own now? Like, what is going on? What's wrong with them? No 6-month-old is going to be able to do anything, right? But a 40-year-old that's not giving back to their parents, that parent might feel forgotten or unappreciated. And guys, it's the same with God. Our relationship starts very one-sided, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's about what He does for us. It's like, man, thank you, God, that you've forgiven me for my past wrongs and that I can move on. Thank you that you're helping me turn my life around. Thank you that I can give you my stress and you give me peace. I thank you. Man, God, I used to be such a negative person. I still struggle with it at times, but you've given me joy. Our relationship with God starts very one-sided. But just like the example of the parents, there comes a time in our growth journey where we're not only focusing on the benefits that God is giving us, it's also about giving back to Him and what we can do for Him. Think about it. The most healthy relationships are relationships that are give and take, not just take. Now let me get this out of the way. When I say what you can do for God, I'm not talking about earning something. I'm not talking about earning a relationship or earning heaven. Jesus did that for you when you came to Him, whenever you did, when you asked for forgiveness, when you asked for grace, and Jesus gave it to you. There's nothing you can do to earn that. And you know what's so awesome? It's such an awesome place to be when you realize that you don't have to do something to earn it, but you're doing something because you're thankful. So get that out of your head if you're tempted when I say give back to God. If you're tempted to go there with this earning thing, no, I'm talking about just having a healthy relationship with him, because every relationship is give and take. I mean, think about this for a moment. Say after service today, we start talking and you ask me about my wife, and I'm like, I just keep going on and on. Man, she's so awesome. She's such a giver. She does so many great things for me. Man, she's just an incredible wife. I thank God for her. She makes me a better person. And then after that, you're like, well, what do you do back for her? And then it's just like dead silence, right? I didn't know I was supposed to. I thought she was here for me, right? At the very least, some of you would be thinking, that PK, you're in danger of having a very one-sided relationship. And it's the same with God. Our relationship, again, not earning anything, but our relationship is healthiest with God when we're receiving from him all that he has for us, but when we're also giving back to him. And I shared with you earlier that the Christmas story is an awesome reminder of all he's done for us, but the Christmas story also reveals what we can do for him. So let's look at a story. It's in Matthew 2, okay? Follow along, and in your notes on the screen, whatever is best for you. And it starts with this. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east, you might want to circle that, that's very important, came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. You know, it's very easy to skip over these verses, especially if you've heard them through the Peanuts Christmas movie, through a Christmas Eve service, through, whatever, if you read it during the Christmas season. It's very easy to just skip over this because all it really says is, you know what, after Jesus was born, some men from the east came. Big deal, who cares? But if you know the context, it's a big deal. These men traveled so far to see Jesus. I'm talking about so far. This summer, some of you might know this already, but you can just think it up front. I'm judging myself for this. The Langdons are lunatics. We really are stupid crazy. This summer, okay, get this. We, in a car, the four of us, drove from California, not to Arizona, not to Colorado, all the way to New York in a car. It was stupid. It was dumb. I love road trips. It was too much. I'm getting drained just thinking about it right now. A deer T-boned us on the way. It was really crazy. And if that wasn't fun enough, we drove from New York all the way back to California 3 weeks later, or however long it was. I'm very thankful we saw family, but it was nuts. It was nuts. As I was thinking about it, preparing for the message again, I was just tired. I was like, man, maybe I still haven't recovered from it. I don't know. Can I tell you, as nuts of a trip as that is, as crazy as it sounds, it does not pale in comparison to the trip that these wise men went on. Guys, just a hint. I'm sure you already know this, but maybe you'll be shocked. Elon Musk wasn't around back then. They didn't have a Tesla to rent or buy. They didn't have the Bethlehem airport to fly into. This would have been a very long journey that would have been a huge, huge sacrifice. And it's not like these men didn't have anything to do. What do we do with our lives? Let's go see the baby Jesus, right? Tradition says that these were men of very high position. That said, they gave their time to Jesus, and that's what we can do as well. You can put it in your notes if you want. We can give back to God through our time. Time, thinking about it for a moment, it's one of our most precious commodities, isn't it? It's something we wish we had more of. Again, we get confused by it at times. How are the days long but years short? It's really weird how it all works at times. It's like, I feel like I've been here forever, but it feels just like yesterday, right? And we can be really busy during certain seasons. And know that God knows that too. God knows that you can be really busy, so I'm not talking about being legalistic. But one way you can give back to God is with your time. Maybe it's moments in a day talking to Him or thanking Him for your job or the breath in your lungs, waking up. Pastor Julian says it often. Sometimes the first thing he does good morning, God. I love you, God. Having moments like that. Listening to songs that remind you of how awesome and incredible He is. Listening to messages or podcasts that deepen your faith in Him. Taking time to reading or listening to God's inspired words through the Bible. Reading or listening to books that help you learn more about Him. Possibly joining and we have some of these at the church, possibly joining a life group or a growth group so that you're getting to know Him more in the context of with other people. It could be serving people in Jesus' name. It could be your family member, a coworker, a boss, someone at the church. It could be someone less fortunate. Do you see? And it could be something I didn't list. I was just giving ideas that God always wants it to be uniquely you. He's not putting us in boxes. But I want you to ask yourself, God, one way, God, that's uniquely me, that I can give my time to you? What would be special to you, God? You know what's really cool about God is that even when we're focused on Him, we still have benefits. It's kind of crazy. And I don't want to paint this picture perfect thing in my relationship with God because it is so up and down at times. It is not perfect. But while it doesn't happen all the time, I can tell at times that when I spend time with God, whatever it is, that it at times has a positive effect on my life. It could possibly be that He's giving you peace over your situation, and He just speaks into your situation. It could be that He encourages you in some way. It could be that He gives you a perspective that you never had. Like, wow, I was so negative about this, but God in His loving mercy, turned that around, and now I see the positive in it. It's like, wow, it's a joy to serve people. There's so many different ways. Even when we're focused on God, where we still receive these awesome, amazing benefits. You may not be able to take the long trek like the wise men did, but you have the same opportunity that they did. You can give Jesus your time. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. Again, in your uniqueness, what's a way that you can give your time to God? Let's go back to the story to see what else we can discover. In Matthew 2, it says they, and again, they're talking about the wise men right there. It says they went on their way, and the star they had seen went ahead of them. It's kind of cool, right? They had their own personal navigation GPS system from God called the star. It's kind of cool, right? And then it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped Him. You can see it in the story right at the end here. But another thing that we can learn from the wise men that we can give back to God is our honor. It's our honor. Again, tradition says that these were men of high position, so they would have really, really, really understood honor. And they decide to give Jesus honor. It's really interesting to me. And you're going to hear me say this a couple of times throughout the message. It's really interesting to me how they responded to Jesus, because it's so different from how some approach Him. Many, or at least some, and I'll put myself first on the list, okay? But some, when they approach Jesus, they're only thinking about themselves. God, what can you do for me? And I have this problem, God, and can you do this and you can do that? And can I say, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's nothing wrong with that, but it's good for us to think about God as well. Let me explain. I already talked about parents, now let me give the friend example. Say you had a friend, and anytime you interacted through the phone, social media, emails, text, you're meeting in person, it's always about them. It's about their drama, it's about their needs, it's about everything that they're going through. And even if you love them to death, and part of you doesn't even really care because you just love them so much that it's such a good friendship, that, man, you might start to think one day, man, I love them still, but this is a really one-sided relationship. It's always about them. Back to God. Guys, I think we'd be floored if we would remove all the crap, all the insecurities, all the comparisons. I think we'd be floored if we knew the value that God truly has for us. I think we'd be in awe if we realized just how deep and wide, like the Bible says, how great his love is for us. The value that God has for us is just amazing. God does value you. Do you value him? Do you have a high view of him? Guys, let me tell you a little something about Jesus. Jesus is the best of friends. He graciously forgives. He's the best provider. He's a warrior that can fight your battles. He'll protect you. He'll comfort you. I mean, the list could just go on and on and on of how amazing he is. Do you value him back? He's incredible. And you might not see Jesus in those ways right now. That's okay. But to continue to discover who he is so that you can have a high view of him. Now, I know a lot of you do have a high view of God. So my question is, does your high view of God affect the way that you live? Because it's not just honoring him with your words. That's a start, and it's amazing. It's also about honoring him with the way we live. And I just mentioned a few reasons why Jesus is so awesome, and I just want to share a few more here on why he's worthy of us following him. He's an awesome leader. He's an amazing guide. He is so wise. I mean, Jesus knows what he's doing. Jesus is so worthy of us following him. God, Jesus, help me follow you. Help me to be more loving. Help me to be more gracious. Help me to be more forgiving. Help me to be more humble. Help me to be more loyal. Help me to be more kind. Help me to think of others. I said this earlier. God is so cool and vast that, again, even when we focus on him, it's like we receive. It's crazy the benefits we get even when we focus on him. And while there's many, when we honor him with our lives, there are many, but I want to focus on one. One benefit we receive when we honor him with our lives, he makes us like better versions of ourselves. It's like amazing. Like think about the traits like faithful, loyal, kind, gracious, humble. Those are such admirable traits to have. And Jesus gives us those. It's so awesome. Let's go back to the story of the wise men one more time. In Matthew 2, it says this. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Another thing we can learn from the wise men of how they gave back is through our generosity. Again, I said it before, their response to Jesus was so different. Instead of asking him for something, like, hey, Joseph, Mary, this is kind of a long trip. Jesus, I know you're only a child right now, but this trip, took the life out of us here. Like, instead of asking for something, they gave Jesus treasures. Guys, treasures are valuable. Jack Sparrow kills for treasures. Right? Put him up on the screen. He kills for treasures. You think he's a nice guy. He's actually kind of mean when he sees treasure. And I know he's fake, Pirates of the Caribbean, but guys, people have for years, some people have given their lives to find treasures. And they were willingly giving theirs to Jesus. When thinking about being generous towards God, it could be tempting to think, how can I be generous towards God? How do I give to a God that has everything? Two thoughts come to mind. Here's the first one. Jesus makes it very clear that when we're generous with others, that's when we're being generous with him. So oftentimes, the way we're generous with God is by being generous with others. And Obi-Wan, Pastor Brandon already said it, but you guys have killed it. It's awesome, the generosity through our impact tree and the other ways that you're doing it. But it's so amazing what you guys have done with the impact tree. You put it up. Just this past week, because of your generosity, get this, right over there, right over at the school, the school trusted us enough to sponsor a family. And me and Gayleen went, she wrapped all these presents that you gave. It was amazing. We couldn't even hold them. Look, we have a little trailer right there for all the gifts. It was so cool. But we found out when we went to the school, this family that we're sponsoring, it's a husband, wife, and two kids. The two students go to OB Elementary. We found out that even the students, they're living out of their car. But because of your generosity to God, they're going to be blessed this Christmas. This is how much they're struggling right now. One of their gifts that they asked for was toiletries. And one of you gave toiletries. And some of you gave games so that they could still feel like kids. And some of you gave jackets so that they could be warm. You know what's most awesome? When you gave to them, you gave to Jesus. Thank you for being generous to God by giving to others. We have another team. Pastor Brandon talked about an invite team. There's an invite team going out today. We have another team, a local hero team that's going out today to distribute gifts off of the generosity of you guys. Please pray for that if you remember. We're going right after second service. 2 teams are going out. Thank you so much for your generosity. And then this week, there will be other people going out this week distributing gifts from the impact tree because you were generous with God. Thank you so much. And but I do want to step back for a moment and say, when I speak about generosity, please know that there are many ways to be generous beyond financial generosity. Just to give you a couple examples, because oftentimes we just think of finances, and finances is one of them, but it's not all of them. I remember in our last church, there was a guy I knew there, and he couldn't do this for everybody, of course. He was just one person. But he had the gift of working on cars. And he knows how expensive. You just breathe towards a auto shop and you're paying $350. You take it in, it's like $700 to fix a window, whatever, right? Like a screw loose, $1,000. So he knew the burden that could be on people. So oftentimes he'd take his talents of working on cars and just give people his free time. That's a way to be generous. Maybe for some of you, I shared this earlier about my mom. She's such an encourager. She'll speak life into you. Maybe it's being generous with your words. Guys, Pastor Julian kind of alluded to this earlier. We live in an imperfect, brutal world at times. Some people, we might take it for granted if we hear a lot of encouragement, but a lot of people don't. And so you can be generous with your words and just speaking life into people. What about being generous with these? Guys, there's so many people that are, again, Pastor Julian shared it, especially during this season. They're just in pain. They're wounded. And they need just an ear. Maybe it's through your presence, kind of like I shared with my dad. Like, he's just always there. He's been that for all of his kids and even beyond. Maybe it's just, hey, I'm not going to be able to fix your car. I'm not good with my hands, but I'm here. How can I help? And you know what's so neat? I've said this a couple times because I just want us to see it. God is so vast. He's so big that, like, even when we're focusing on him and giving back to him and giving back to others, it's so cool because we still get benefits. Listen to this verse. It says in Proverbs 11, a generous person will prosper. That's cool. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. This applies to anyone, including you and me. And while it doesn't always mean financially, like I just said, prospering is awesome. Maybe you're struggling financially, but maybe you're prospering with friends because you're giving back and you're trusted. Life can get monotonous and so crazy and stale at times, so being refreshed is a great benefit. I'll tell you, and ask Gayleen after service, like, we were refreshed through your generosity to go over there and say, thank you, God, that you blessed us to be able to help a family that's so in need. It's crazy that when we give, it can bring refreshment to us, right? But that's how God often works. As I shared, the Christmas story is a powerful reminder. It really is a powerful reminder of all the great things God gives us, and that we can be thankful for, and that we can receive and don't have to feel guilty for. We can just, with a thankful heart, receive it. But the Christmas story also reveals to us that we can give back to God. I mentioned a little bit ago that I had two thoughts when it comes to the question, what can I give to a God that has everything? The question actually isn't even correct. God doesn't have everything. Heresy. Whoa, slow your roll, bro. Hold on a minute. God doesn't have our hearts. That's something that we have to give. Because God does not force himself, it's actually something that we have to offer. Does God have your heart? And I am talking about the moment that you came to Christ, but it's beyond that too. Because again, it's not just one-sided. Maybe you gave your heart to God 12 years ago, and you're saved. But does he have other pieces of your heart? Has it grown stale lately? Again, you're saved. There, no questions there. You still have a relationship with God, but does he have your heart? Because that's something that has to be, because he's such a gentleman, it's something that has to be given to him. It's something that has to be offered. And see, when he has our heart, while it can still be hard, it can be so much more natural when he has our heart to give him our time, to give him our honor, and to be generous back with him by being generous with others. Guys, this heart thing is huge. What can I give to the God that almost has everything? Give him the thing that he wants. You. Can we pray about this together? I just think this is so important. Your heart is the most important treasure there is to God. Right? Not everything we see, it's not going to be here someday. God cares about your soul and your heart. That's his most important treasure. That's what Jesus came for. So can you bow your heads and close your eyes in this moment? And I want you to, just between you and God right now, do some heart surgery right now. God, is there a piece of my heart that you're wanting? And then, as he speaks to you, I just want you to pick one. Maybe God will tell you as he searches your heart and you're being open to him, maybe he's like, you know what, I know you love me, we have a relationship, but man, you've been kind of distant lately. Spend some time with me. Do it in your own unique way. Don't put yourself in a box, but just spend time with me. Maybe for some of you, God's asking you to follow him in a very specific and unique way. Hey, I want you to love that person. Yes, that person. I want you to be gracious. Yes, to that person. Honor me by following me. And then maybe for some of you, he's like, hey, I want you to think about this person in your life. Be generous with them in some way. Show them the love that I have for them. Be gracious towards them. It's time to forgive them. Give them your ear. Give them your presence. God's looking for your heart. He's not going to force himself. I'm so thankful for that. But in response to that, can we offer it? So while Cameron's playing, before I pray, I just want you to take a moment between you and God. Let him speak to you.